Okay, so hi guys, welcome to the first ever Crafty Gecko tutorial on Stick2 Network. This one's going to be on Sans and Papyrus from Undertale because Sans shows up in the new Off the Grid series. So now, to make Papyrus's head, you want to start off with just rolling out a bull-sized papyrus head, or however you want to call it. You just roll out a bull that's the same size as the papyrus head that you desire, whatever size you want. And you slowly just pull down so he's got his front teeth. Now I did the ears and his neck first, and then I went and drew his line for his teeth and then did his individual teeth into his sculpt, basically. And now I started with the teeth because it means you can base the rest of the face off of it, and the nose is just two lines joined at the top. His eyes are much simpler. They're literally, you just do the lines however you want, and you just smooth all the inside out with the end of your screwdriver or whatever tool you're using. Now once you've got all the eyes completed, you need to move on to making the jaw. You start off by rolling out a little piece and turning it into a square. You bring out the back so that it can fit into the back of his jaw, and then you sculpt his teeth in the same as you did with the top. Putting the holes in the top allows for a poseable jaw, however of course you do not need this. Okay, now we're going to make Sans. Sans is a lot harder, and his face took me a couple of hours. And as we did with the first one, we're going to roll his head out into a ball shape, and you can use a reference image like I did, or you can use my reference, completely up to you, I don't mind. And to make the little cheekbone shape, you're going to just push your thumbs and forefinger into the sides of him to get the nice shape. Now to start with his eyes, I just used the end of a paintbrush and rolled them slowly until I was happy with the eye size. Now you see with this that I'm not entirely happy, and in the end I just give up on it because it's so hard to get his face shape done in the limited time I had to record this video that I just scrapped it. Because technically you still got the process, and his eyes are quite easy to do. It's literally, you just sculpt in the bags under his eyes, make his eyes with the paintbrush, you do his nose the same as you did with Papyrus, you do the outline of his teeth. You push the area where his teeth will be in, and then you do the lines for each individual tooth. Now I waited for him to be somewhat dry before pushing his eyes in further, so that it wouldn't take the rest of his eyes in with him. Now you can see that I wanted to do poseable eyes for both Sanses, including the big one, so I made them for this small one. As you can see, he also has his genocide eye. Losing my voice, but anyway, we made that out of the beads that I then rolled in my clay, which will later be painted black, except for the blue bead in the middle. We will also do the same for his normal eyes, as I would like to make them poseable. Just the same as the one from Off the Grid. So now I'm going to make Papyrus's body and his neck, because you just want to get an overall size for him, and I added black here because it helped me visualise where the scarf would sit and how it should look when the scarf's there. So I'm just sculpting out so that his head fits perfectly on and it's a nice size. I did not reference the face from this image, I referenced it from a different image, but now to get his shoulders positioned properly, I just rolled my fingers into the gaps where his shoulders will be. Makes it much easier just to get that placement in. And I then went to make his neck, which took a little while because I wanted to make sure that it was perfect so that the scarf would fit, but so that he didn't look like a giraffe. You can also see that I made the actual bit where his spine goes into first, because I just thought that would be easier to do first. But his neck, you just roll in between your thumb and forefinger to give the bone kind of shape to it. And once I was happy, I pushed the screwdriver through to create the hole where the pipe cleaner will later go through, which you do the same for anywhere you want the metal joints to be in. Or if you want to use Figma joints, that's completely up to you. However, if you're using those, I recommend use polymer clay so they're tighter and stiffer to use. Now to make his shoulders, you just roll out some nice ball shapes. And you want them to be somewhat large but not too big so that they kind of interfere with everything. So I was happy with this size, and I later went on to push the hole straight through so that the pipe cleaner could go in, and then I lengthened the hole either side so that you could kind of bend his arms up and down without the pipe cleaner catching and tearing through the clay, which if it's not properly softened it can do. So I've just gone and done that. And being quite happy with the way this turned out, I then decided to go and make the area that you can see on the very bottom of his shoulder pads where his arms come out. There's this gold little ring. I will be doing mine with a white and gold mix, so it's not too gold and not too yellow. No, a yellow and gold, not white and gold. So now I'm gone on to make his forearms. I made a piece long enough for his whole arm and then just segmented that almost in half because I wanted the upper part of his arm to be that little bit shorter. So just rolling it out so there's a nub either end creates this nice bone look to it, so it looks a little bit more like it would if it was a real bone. And putting that on the shoulder pad in the correct position, you kind of get the idea for how it should look. I also then went and made the forearms before moving on to the ring, which you simply just wrap around until you're happy that it's covered the whole thing. I later tore these off and re-superglued them when the clay was dry because it didn't stick properly. So now I'm happy with that, I'm going to go and move on to making his waist piece. Now I started off by making the spine piece that you can see in the reference image, which is level with Sans' head. And that's kind of like an egg shape. Once I was happy with that shape, I decided to go and make the weird curve that it will be sat in, that his hips kind of show through a little bit, as seen in the reference image that I'm using. So bit by bit, I lengthened this out until I was happy that the, I guess they're like shorts, or really short shorts, or underwear, whatever you want to call them, were far enough out that they looked normal and far enough out that you could fit the hip pieces in. I fitted those in, which I also later tore out and re-glued, and then wrapped the gold band around it. After I was happy with the way it looked, I then indented where his hips will be going with my thumb and forefinger again, just slightly moving it around. Once happy with the shape, I put the holes in for his legs and got ready to start making his legs. Putting it all down next to each other gives a nice way of checking whether the sizing is correct, which I was happy it was. So obviously just making the indents further with the pen and adding his shoulders together lightly, not pushing them together so they permanently stick, but just enough so you can see what's going on. Now recording in fast motion does lower the quality, so I'm sorry that the quality is a little bit lower, but there was absolutely nothing I could do about that. So what I'm making now is, before I move on to the legs, I'm making these weird gold bands you can see before his gloves. Now to make those look fabric and natural, I kind of just pinched at the ends, and to make the hole where the pipe cleaners will then be going in, I pushed my screwdriver through it and wiggled it around until there's a large enough hole for it. Now the gloves you won't see me make because they will be made in the other video, as they use the bendy wire, and the assembly will be in the next video as well as the painting. If you'd like to see that part, visit my channel, as that will be coming out on the following Saturday, so for you guys that will be coming out tomorrow. Now moving on to the legs, I did the same as with the arms and made them just long enough so that they'd fit the whole leg, and then cut them not in half, more as a 2-to-1 ratio, because it made sense as half of his bottom leg is covered by the boots. Making a knob either end for the bone look to it. I might not even paint these as it's already black and I'm happy with his weird bones kind of being black. Now I meant to zoom into his boots there but didn't pay attention to the iPad because I was just trying to show you what I was doing, and you can't make out in fast motion, but for some reason it kind of redid it. Anyway, you can see that I made the shins smaller. I adjusted it there so you can see the boots. And to make this little red that wraps around the bottom of the leg, I flattened out a piece, made it a long rectangular piece, and rolled it around the very bottom. Just like so. Making sure that there was enough of a hole in the end to get a pipe cleaner through. However, you don't need to do this, as I later changed my mind and just glued the foot on without it being poseable. Because I learnt from the big Sans that you saw at the start of the video, having poseable ankles makes them very likely to fall over. Okay, so now moving on to the feet, and you hire the bit where the ankle will be connecting, and you just kind of do the same as I did with the bendy tutorial, which is on my channel, but I won't be linking to it because it's not that important. It's just saying that you roll over in the middle of the foot, so you see the toe area and you see where the arch of your foot would normally be. Now that it's all lined up and I'm really happy with the way this has turned out, I think I'm going to move it all to one side and start over with Sans. Now you won't see me make the scarf or anything in this video, that will be over on my channel, so all the painting and the decorating, this is only the sculpting that I'm showing you here. So now I started by having a tea break first because I was really thirsty, and this kind of dries out your throat. So I started off by making his neck, which I was originally going to do as quite a long neck, but then I looked at the reference image and realised how flat his neck was, and obviously it's much larger than Papyrus's, because he's meant to be fat, but I don't like the idea of him being fat, because obviously he's not exactly a fat character, because he can't be, because he's a skeleton. Anyway, I then went on to making his body, where I sculpted out the spine, and pushed upwards to create his ribs. Not being happy, I made this indent and then squashed his neck into it and then reconfirmed the hole so that his neck would fit nicely in it. And people wanted to know how I did the ribs. It's very easy with the end of a paintbrush just to get this somewhat light sculpture in. Don't worry too much about that because that will be hidden, and his body does look very strange at the moment. It's just easy for posability. Now for the very end, I do create bits so the waist can move on both of them. In the end I glued it all together because it made them very unstable and it's not a necessary animation piece. So now moving on to his lower half and making his legs, I decided to start with his hips to get an idea of whereabouts his shorts would sit. Now they look extremely strange, but that's because I needed them to be able to house the shorts that will be made out of fabric, as well as have a nice indent to them. So that originally so they'd be poseable, but now obviously not needed. But then you do the same, only really short for the legs, as with Papyrus. You make these with the same nub either side, really short. Now I found out later that you don't really need to detail these pieces because they're covered by the shorts, so it's not something you need to do. Moving on to his lower shins, I did sculpt the ankle out and sculpt the end of the foot in, so that when you put it in his slipper it does show up a little bit easier. So I just replicated this for the other foot, and it did take a little time to get myself happy with it. So now moving on to the slippers, which I don't think I will paint unless I go over with a light tinge to make it look fabricy. You make a large oval for his feet to stand on, which you can see I've done here. And you do that for each foot. And obviously, as you know, slippers don't have the normal kind of shape that you'd expect them to. They are just oval. So now to make the lip at the very end, as you can see, that covers his toes. For this I made a semicircle, and you just flatten it out with little points at the very end of the semicircle so that they can cover over his foot perfectly. This can take a little bit of time, however, if you estimate it right, you can get it perfect first time. It just takes a good guess, as happened here for once. So when I was happy with those, I moved on to his bicep pieces, or I guess you wouldn't call them bicep, I guess you'd call them the upper armpits. Obviously first I decided to test that everything stood okay and I was happy with the way it looked. Before it perfectly dried I did kind of re-angle it a little bit. But now making the arms thin enough so that you can get your shirt piece and your hoodie piece over the top without making them look too fat, which I made that slight mistake of, so you should make your arms a little bit thinner than this. And they're going to be covered with jumper, so you don't actually need to make his arms at all. You can just make his hands and have the hoodie cover the rest, which I found out later by watching the tutorial, which was kindly made by this person here. I have completely forgotten the name, however, so I'll be back in a second. So the original artist is called Zamka. If you'd like to see their version where they use polymer clay, just search up Zamka or Sans Poseable Figure. They come up as the first, and you'll notice it because it looks very similar to the image I have up. So this is just me explaining how to make the zip on Sans, like the bigger one you saw earlier, because I figured that people would like to see how to make the zip if you're not going to make it out of fabric and you're going to make his clothes out of clay. Now to make his pocket, it's a little bit harder, I would say, because some people wanted to see how to do the stitching. So now this terrible version of what it would look like, you just jab your screwdriver into it all over, and it creates this kind of stitching pattern. So now his hands I'm not going to make in this video, they'll be made in another video that's on my channel, because his fingers are going to be poseable, and I'm just pointing out here that there's 2 eyes for Papyrus and 3 for Sans, because obviously he's got the 2 black and white for Papyrus and the 2 black and white for Sans, but obviously Sans also has the blue one. So yeah, the clothing and everything will be made in the second part of the video. I only wanted to explain how you do the sculpting in this one. So if you want to see the decorative pieces, then head over to my channel. However, I don't want you to feel forced. Only go over there if you want to see the rest, or if you want to see some other parts of my own projects. So basically, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Also, yeah, sock puppets are the fabrics I'm using, as well as some black socks and some blue fleece material that cost me £5. However, it's very nice and warm and doubles up as a blanket, so when I was cutting out his jumper earlier today, I kind of just wrapped up in a blanket while I did it, because it's winter over here. And it's freezing. I don't know whether it's warm where you are, whether it's just as cold, so I was just wrapped up underneath my blanket. But anyway, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're new, then make sure you subscribe, because this is a great channel. There's the blue fleece. And there's not just me here, there's a ton of other people doing animations and amazing things like that. So make sure you're here. Submit to the link that you see as soon as you load up our thing. It'll be on the trailer. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, comment, and let us know what you'd like to see next, because if you'd like to see Regalius tutorial, I'll upload that to both my channel and this channel, because I have a thing on my channel where I do all the off-the-grid tutorials, including Ultimate Raptus. But if you would like to see any of that, then leave a comment down below, because upcoming ones I will upload to this channel as well as my own. So, hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. I will leave all this on screen so you can see it, because why not? I mean, if you just want to have a quick look at it, then go for it. You can see the eyes and everything, and you can see Sans. So, overall, I think these turned out okay. They didn't turn out terrible, but they didn't turn out... well, they did turn out quite good. So, I'm happy with these. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video, and thank you for watching.